Ooh, the wind. All right, so go ahead, Frank. First of all, spell your whole name so I get it right for
Sure,
me.
Frank, Frank, space, Minson, Minson.
And what year are you at NYU?
I am I'm between junior and senior, just figuring out the credit situation right now, but I'm there,
So and how many years have you been doing Quidditch?
since I first got here. So as I was at the Club Fest table, and they kind of just pulled me off to the side, like you do to everybody, but I was like, what is this? But, I came out freshman year and, met a good group of kids and I'm stuck with it ever since. Yeah.
So, I mean, the motivation to stick with it for as long as you have, basically three and a half years now.
Yeah.
Tell me about that.
When I kind of came into it a little murky. I'm like, what is this? I saw it on Snapchat when I was in high school. I'm like, all right. But I got here, I really liked the kids, and I was surprised by how much I enjoyed the community, and I was generally athletic enough, and I thought, maybe I'll be able to do well on the sport. And I came in, I was competent, but it was a lot different than I expected, a lot more competitive, and I can't really emphasize the community enough because there's a semi-pro league, there's community teams, so adult teams, and everyone there, it just made you feel really comfortable at home and friendly with everybody.
What do you think is the most kind of unique aspect of the entire game?
It's got to be the gender inclusivity. You have to have at least 2 non-males at the field at each team at all times, and I think that's very unique, progressive for the sport. It gets everyone involved. It makes you strategize differently, and it's fun to involve everybody. Yeah.
In a nutshell, explain the rules because they're nothing like any other sport.
It's a bit of a hodgepodge combination. You got dodgeball in there. You got sort of like a basketball, European handball. It's you could really name any sport and you can say, it kind of fits. But so the game starts with there's the chasers and the beaters and the keeper. The keeper is pretty much a bona fide chaser that has special rules. The idea is to get the quaffle, which is the volleyball, through the hoops. That's a goal. The beaters come in with the dodgeballs. They're the knockout effect. They hit a chaser or a beater on the other team, and then you have to get off of your broom and you have to tag back up, and you're out of the play until you tag up. It sounds a little convoluted right now, but it took me a couple weeks to get into it. The hardest part's staying on the broom. You're just not used to a PVC pipe between your legs. But something else that's important is, the positions can't intertwine. So a chaser can't touch a beater's dodgeball. A beater can't touch a chaser's dodgeball. So I would say that's the crux. The goal is to score as many as you can, and the snitch comes out who ends the game and is worth 30 points. Each goal is worth 10.
One thing really interesting you mentioned is getting used to that PVC pipe, which is between your legs, for even those 18 minutes, having to deal with that.
Yeah.
Over the years you've been there, that's been actually changed up, I understand a bit. There used to be more of an actual broom.
Yeah, it used to be a broom with the little bristles on the back, and as a sport sort of legitimized and sort of got a certain stigma associated with it, I think they kind of just kept the handicap because that's crucial to the game, but made it a little bit more appealing to the general athlete that might come in and say, got a broom between their legs,
And it wasn't comfortable. Not that this is that much more comfortable, but that sounds like that was probably even worse.
Yes. Yes. And after 3.5 years, you kind of, I guess you're never used to it, but I guess you just get accustomed to it more,
Does it still cause do you guys get pain on your
I
legs?
shave.
You literally shave just to be
shave.
Okay,
After a while,
yeah.
I'm sorry, I mispronounced.
I was like, yeah.
No.
I was like, that's pretty die hard. So you still though deal with obviously chafing from having to have this thing between you.
Nothing terrible, but it's a little something that afterwards it's a little sore, a little.
Tell me a little bit about the Harry Potter aspect, because obviously this is what inspired this entire movement.
Just move back like this.
Yeah.
You're
I'm
good.
sorry, I've been-
You'll come
yeah.
this
No,
way.
it's all good. Probably the wind too,
Yeah.
just knocking you over.
Yeah.
It's so cold. So tell me a little bit about the Harry Potter aspect, which is what kind of started this whole thing. This was originally in the movies, in the books, and then grew from there.
Yeah, so I think it was 12 years ago now at Middlebury College is when it first originated. Alex Spinapi sort of created the game with, a few of his friends. They started, screwing around, making some rules and enjoying themselves in the quad. And they started playing against fellow colleges around like Vassar and colleges like that. And, they would bring their friends, spectators, and like, oh, this is pretty cool. And there were Potterheads, and they really enjoyed it, but it started to spread from there, and they started to get the word out, and it spread around the Northeast, and then it spread throughout the United States, and I guess you find a lot of people that are into Harry Potter, aren't into Harry Potter. It's at a mix now where it's everyone's sort of, I don't know how to explain it. You just get a good mix. You get a good mix of, you don't have to be a huge Harry Potter fan to play, but it doesn't necessarily hurt you either to be a Harry Potter fan to play. And there you'll find a lot of people that do really appreciate Harry Potter, and you get the mix of Potterhead and athlete.
It almost seems like there's very few differences from what I've read between the rules in the movies or the books and this, other than the fact that obviously you don't fly.
Yeah.
That's the one thing that seems to be really missing. Outside of that,
I mean, it's pretty it's just like that, minus maybe a wrestler pretty much for a snitch, but you do what you can, right? But yeah, I gotta say it was pretty spot on with the way that they made the rules initially, and a lot of foresight in it, especially creating a rule book that was malleable to change as the sport progressed and evolved. Yeah.
Perfect. Is there anything, Phil? I forgot what else is there. Let me know if there's anything else you want in there.
I'm sorry.
No,
I'm
it's
gonna
okay.
get too shot.
When you were reading Harry Potter, did you ever think that you'd be playing this game, or did you want to play?
When I was like 5 or 6, me and my dad used to read it together, and then the movies came out, and I saw it. I'm like, oh, that's pretty cool. But I was never like.
No, you got to talk to Mark.
Keep looking at me, Frank. No, it's all good.
I never thought that I would. After I saw the movies, I never thought that I'd actually go play it. But the fact that I'm playing it now, it's kind of funny to look back and say, oh, wow, that's kind of funny, right?
That is awesome. Is there anything else for you, Phil?
What do people say when you tell them you're a Quidditch player?
Yeah, what's I guess the reaction for people who aren't in the league, obviously.
It's my consummate fun fact for the icebreakers in class, and you get a few giggles and oh, but afterwards you always get someone from class like, can you explain it? Like, what is that? And it's not as you don't necessarily get the receptivity from the general public, but it's fun enough and I enjoy the community enough that I like actually playing it. I don't mind saying it. It's not a big deal to me, but I guess, yeah, I mean, the stigma is exactly.
Do you think it's grown in acceptance over the years?
Oh,
I mean, now that you think it's grown a lot in terms of just general public acceptance of the sport and kind of saying, hey, this is good, this is really a sport and it's respected?
It's come a lot. I mean, it's only been 12 years, so I try to give it some slack, right? But since the beginning, I mean, it was sort of like the nerd sport. And after a while, it grew in legitimacy, and a lot of people jumped in. A lot of actual athletes came in. There's actually some D1 athletes that do play it on some college teams, and it's cool to see that they actually, venture out and actually do it. Yeah.
Perfect.
I think it might be an Olympic sport.
Yeah,
someday.
I saw there's like a little poll from Olympic athletes. I didn't know if it was a joke or not. ESPN published it, and they said like 3% of Olympic athletes said that Quidditch should be the next Olympic sport. I'm like, all right, but there's a potential to it if it raises in level of actual athletic ability, because you do have the handicaps and you do have the making of the sport with the competitiveness, the scorekeeping, and there's a lot of different factors that make it interesting and watchable, entertaining.
So it's possible, like any other sport.
Yeah, just like any other sport, right? Yeah.
Perfect. Thank you so much.
Thank you guys.
Thanks a lot.
Thank you.
We'll get some shots of you.
Yeah.